Okay. Welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes. So, Hare Krishna. We're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit, Text 2. Text 2, Chapter 8, Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam. Today's December 5th, 2020. Okay. Etad Veditum Ichami Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara Harer Adbhuta Viryasya Kata Loka Sumangala Etad Veditum Ichami Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara Harer Adbhuta Viryasya Kataloka Sumangala Etad Veditum Ichami Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara Harer Adbhuta Viryasya Kataloka Sumangala Etad Veditum Ichami Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara Harer Adbhuta Viryasya Kataloka Sumangala Etad Veditum Ichami Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara Harer Adbhuta Viryasya Kataloka Sumangala
Etad Veditum Ichami
Etad Veditum Ichami
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Kataloka Sumangala
Kataloka Sumangala
Etad Veditum Ichami
Etad Veditum Ichami
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Kataloka Sumangalaha
Kataloka Sumangala
Etad Veditum Ichami
Etad Veditum Ichami
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Tattvam Tattvavidam Vara
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Harer Adbhuta Viryasya
Kataloka Sumangala
Kataloka Sumangala. Okay, this is Canto 2, Chapter 8, Text 2. Etat, this, Veditum, to understand, Ichami, I wish, Tattvam, truth, Tattvavidam, of those who are well versed in the absolute truth. Vara, O best. Hare, of the Lord. Adbhuta Viryasya, of the one who possesses wonderful potencies. Kata, narrations. Loka, for all planets. Sumangala, auspicious. Translation. The king said, I wish to know. Narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living beings in all planets. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is text 2, chapter 8, canto 2. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of the activities of the Supreme Lord, is auspicious for all living beings residing in every planet. One who takes it as belonging to a particular sect is certainly mistaken. Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly a very dear scripture for all the devotees of the Lord, but it is auspicious even for the non-devotees also, because it explains that even the non-devotees hovering under the spell of material energy can be delivered from such clutches if they hear the narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam with devotion and attention from the right source representing the Lord by disciplic succession. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayarupa Kadamayam Derati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sta Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganaraganatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Stra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desa Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by serving the pure representative of the Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving devotional service to the transcendent Lord, who is praised by the choicest Vedic verses, is irrevocably established in the heart. Etadveditum ichami tatvam tatva vidambara harerad-bhuta viryasya kataloka sumangala. The king said, I wish to know. Narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living beings in all planets. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Okay, so This chapter is entitled Questions by King Parikshit. Generally, we spend a few months on each chapter at the rate we go. And so this whole chapter is these deep, inspiring, brilliant questions by King Parikshit. You can say brilliant at the same time as so yesterday Malini led class and discussion on the first verse of this chapter, and she talked about how it's simply the natural human function in awakened, enlightened life to inquire about self-realization, to inquire about things that are really important, So here we're in the second verse of chapter 8, Canto 2. And so to inquire about our eternal welfare, our eternal benefit. We sometimes make the point, I think Melanie mentioned yesterday at some point in the advanced course, we talk about how all living entities are inquiring, maybe verbally, with language, without language, or a different sort of language. How all living entities are inquiring around eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, or how to make money, which relates in material consciousness to eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Ultimately, money is Lakshmi. And with many coaching clients, they get it. It's transformational for them to conceive of money as a person. And they start, how am I relating to this person, Lakshmi, this demigoddess? Similarly with Earth. Earth is the idea of Mother Earth. It's not just some mythology. Earth is actually a person, and she's the highest environmentalism and ecological consciousness is to give our lives to serving Krishna, because Bhumi, Mother Earth, she's a devotee of Krishna. So naturally, one becomes a devotee of Krishna, and she is very happy, and she supplies abundantly, and becoming a devotee of Krishna. That transcendental process naturally includes being vegetarian and being sattvic and not polluting and things like that. It includes that naturally. And so just to get some context here. So Maharaj Parikshit, he's asking, he's saying he wished to know the text 1 that we read yesterday. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, how did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? And then today's verse, the king said, I wish to know narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living beings in all planets. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he has accepted, he didn't need to accept, but he accepted a curse that he's going to die in 7 days. Here we're in the 6th canto, so maybe here we're in the 2nd canto, so maybe it's 6 days now. And he's made a choice. He's made a choice, and he's fasting from food, water. He's doing a 1-week Nirjal fast, and sleep. He's not eating, drinking, or sleeping. And so his inquiries are not about eating, drinking, sleeping, mating, defending. Right. So his inquiries are jivasya tatra jigyasa natyaste karmavi, are about the absolute truth, about that benefit, self-realization, Krishna consciousness, that benefit that will never, that's the ultimate goal of the human form of life, really of all forms of life. Just in the human form, consciousness is awakened enough that we're aware that we have that choice. So he's fasting, he's doing these austerities. And we can see he's not like, oh, I hope I can make this fast. Well, I'm really hungry. Or he's He's completely absorbed. Just to get the context of this whole conversation, here we are at the beginning of the chapter. He's completely absorbed in Krishna Katha, in transcendental philosophy. So, we talk about meeting ourselves where we're at. And then we like to emphasize, yes, meeting ourselves where we're at, not pulling the reins too tight. And that's not the ultimate goal. Meeting ourselves where we're at as a platform, as a foundation for progress, so that we're not, means like we're not letting the reins too loose, like indulging in sense gratification, and then my mind becomes dull. Okay, like so there's too many donuts, too few donuts, then there's just that balanced number of donuts. Okay, so yes, so friction. So experiencing our experience, meeting ourselves where we're at, not doing some spiritual bypass, and at the same time keeping the goal in mind. And the goal is Maharaj Parikshit's consciousness, right? So he's made a choice here. And yeah, the process of Jara and Mityu, the process of old age, disease, and death of the body. Yes, these processes, they're meant to help us along to come towards this consciousness of Maharaj Parikshit. We don't want to artificially imitate it, but we do want to aspire towards it, where he's truly, not artificial. He is truly transcended. He's truly transcended any need for eating, sleeping, even drinking water. Again, we don't want to artificially imitate, but it's not about, oh, I will refrain. It's about he's so absorbed in Krishna, so absorbed in Krishna Katha that he's fully realized that he's a soul. He's not the body. We quote C.S. Lewis a lot these days. C.S. Lewis said, I don't have a soul. I am a soul. I have a body. So he's on that platform. So because the soul doesn't need eating, drinking, sleeping, mating, defending. The soul doesn't need that. Again and again. We don't want to artificially pretend we're there. And we do want to aspire towards that consciousness, as illustrated by that prime hero, Maharaj Parikshit, the prime hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit. And so he's getting this taste where he's truly transcendental to even the most fundamental material needs and desires. He's truly transcendental, not artificial. He's getting that taste. How and why? Because he's absorbed in the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes, devotees of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And the main speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, that's Srila Shukadeva Goswami. And Srila Shukadeva Goswami, he was a fully realized impersonalist. He was fully realized in the non-personal energetic aspect of the Supreme. And it's described about Srila Shukadeva Goswami in the first canto. Atmaramas chamunayo nirgranti apyurukrame akantiki harer bhaktir ut itam buta kunohar. And even though he was completely realized, satisfied, he had no interest. He had no interest in any mundane stories, or he was an avaduta. He was traveling around naked like that. He was an avaduta. And he got attracted. He heard in the forest, there were some disciples of Vyasadeva, and they were chanting a few verses from Bhagavatam about Krishna. And he got attracted. And he was attracted more and more. Then he heard the whole Bhagavatam from his father. Okay, so what's this mean? It means that even those who have, first of all, because so many attempts at spiritual path, it's about going to merge into the oneness and that sort of thing. For the most part, I don't want to overly generalize, but for the most part, they're not particularly serious paths. They don't require austerity that will really detach one from matter. But even if someone does achieve that, it's described. Mukti maninas. Tvayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhayo. Aruya krichana padam padam tata. Patanti dona drita yushmadangraya. Even if one does achieve that liberation from matter, which is no small achievement, not to minimize, but still, if there's not an attraction to spiritual form, spiritual quality, spiritual activities, then one comes back down to the material sphere. One will come back down to the material sphere. And so Shukadeva Goswami had no envy in his heart. And so what it means is these descriptions of Krishna's avatars. In the previous chapter, we heard about the Gajendra avatar, and Krishna appeared as the form of Vishnu to support his pure devotee Gajendra. We heard about the fish avatar and the boar avatar and Krishna and Balaram. So the stories of Krishna and Balaram, that they're not mundane soap opera. This is important to get. It's important to get that these stories of Krishna and the creation is nothing mundane about them. Otherwise, realized souls, realized impersonalists like Shukadeva Goswami would not be attracted to them. And even if we think about it, the idea is that when we achieve pure enlightenment, then there's no pastimes, there's no activities, because the idea is all of the pastimes, the idea of the Mayavad, the impersonal conceptions, all of the pastimes. Oh, that's just soap opera. It's just mundane romance, mundane adventure like that. And so maybe we can use them to get to a particular point, but ultimately they're illusion, just like our ordinary activities or whatever we watch on YouTube or things like that. But no, so this is satisfying for the soul. Transcendental creative activities, transcendental pastimes. It is, Now, sometimes in the Shastra, even in Bhagavatam and like that, there are descriptions that indicate that the spirit soul is Brahman, is Brahman. So it's kind of, and there's truth to that. We are made of spirit, Satchidananda Vigraha, eternally full of bliss and knowledge. So there's truth to that. It's kind of like, let's say if we're at the beach, and we point to the ocean and we say, there's the ocean. Now, really, we're only pointing to one particular very small fragment of the ocean that represents not even a fraction of a percentage of the vast Atlantic or Pacific. Still, by pointing at one fragment, we're indicating the entire vast ocean. So similarly, the Shastras and the realized speakers of the Shastras, sometimes they'll refer to the spirit soul as Brahman. It doesn't mean that that this little sliver of ocean I'm pointing to is the whole ocean, but we refer to it to indicate the whole ocean. So Brahman in its completeness includes the jiva, the material energy, Sri Krishna, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Paramatma, super soul in the heart, Brahman, it includes the whole ocean. So, Maharaj Parikshit, he's fully absorbed in hearing, and now he's questioning. In a sense, he's doing kirtan. We can think of kirtan as being, with instruments and singing, and that's a form. But kirtan means to describe or to glorify the absolute, to glorify Krishna. And so when we're speaking Bhagavatam, speaking Bhagavad Gita, that's kirtan. When we're asking questions, we're asking questions related to Krishna consciousness, to self-realization. That's Shravanam Kirtanam. Srinvatam Svakada Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtanam. Vijanta Stoya Bhajani Vijunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in the heart of all living entities, personally cleanses the heart from material desire for the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So Parikshit Maharaj is doing intense austerity here, but he's not feeling the intense austerity. He's just feeling the bliss of absorption. And so like he's the example of where to go at the time of death. And intelligence means understanding padam padam bam padam tam yadvi padam notation. The time of death. He knew he had 7 days to live. We know that we probably have many years and maybe we have more than 7 days. Maybe not. Maybe we have 7 seconds. Maybe today's the day. We use this example borrowed from Srila Prabhupada, that like for those who are using their life, like Maharaj Parikshit, who always used his life for Krishna consciousness from the time he's in the womb, that's described, but he got especially intense these last 7 days. For those who use their life for self-realization, for Krishna consciousness, not getting frivolous, not wasting time, not buying into lame excuses, for those who use their life for that, then death, it's like the jaws of the cat from the perspective of the kitten. Warm, sheltering, safe. There's love there. And for one, to the extent that we squander our life going for that which will be crushed by time, going for that which is mundane, instead of living for transcendental purpose, letting Yehi Samsparshajan Boga, Dukivanaya Evite, Jantavanta Kote Nante Shurumate Buddha, going for that which is temporary, essentially eating, sleeping, mating, defending, perhaps, in glorified forms. Then death, old age, it's like the jaws of the cat from the perspective of the mouse or the rat, terrifying. And then so much of life is spent trying to numb that, So Prahlad, the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj recommends Kamaracharat Pragyo Dharma Bhagavatamya. Dulabam Manasham Jadman Tadap Yatrum Artadam. Prahlad Maharaj at 5 years old, he said, don't wait till you're in your 70s. Don't wait. Take to Krishna consciousness now. And his friends were like, we're 6 years old, we want to play. And he's like, well, it doesn't mean that like there's not play. Yukta Hari Viharasya, Yukta Chestasya Kamasya, Yukta Swapna Vabodasya, Yoga Bhavati Dukkha. That Krishna says, okay, in this process, in this process, it requires being balanced in work, in recreation, eating, sleeping. Okay. And of course, each of us, we're responsible to determine what's a healthy balance at each juncture of life. And meeting ourselves where we're at while going towards this consciousness of Maharaj Parikshit. Without compromising that. That's where we're going towards. And being happy and satisfied and giving ourselves enough donuts and like that. But not complacent, always stretching ourselves. That's why I was very moved on December 3rd, hearing all those wonderful stretches, and starting with the newscaster Charlene describing was so inspirational because it's stretching. And it's a good, like, I've had this discussion with different um, facilitators in training. Like something could be a stretch, like, oh, this is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it's healthy, good, or life-giving. There are some ways we could stretch ourselves, that we just stretch ourselves more deeply into degradation, or more deeply into I never thought of absorbing myself that deeply into tamas and rajas. Okay, now that's different than, because for sure that sometimes in the name of a spiritual bypass, we're blocking something, and so a stretch can connect us with parts of ourselves that's vital to experience, so that we're freed up. But so the stretches on December 3rd that so many shared, they were stretches towards the consciousness of Parikshit Maharaj, stretches towards sattva and more, towards transcendence. And so that's stretches connected with the highest possible mission of the human form of life. And so, like Srila Prabhupada, he said like formally he took initiation in 1933. But in 1922, when he first met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, when he first met him, he said, I accepted Bhakti Siddhanta's mission in my life. And he said that was the real initiation. And then again, then externals, and they're important too. But the essence is to accept Srila Prabhupada's mission in our life, and then really, then things get simple. And then things get simple as far as what's the balance, like what balance in terms of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, career, money, like that. Those decisions, the reference point for all of them is clear and focused. Yeah, what will support me to increase my service to Srila Prabhupada's mission? That mentality, that's the initiation. That's the essence of initiation. And yeah, and then like the formal initiation, then it's just like, yeah, okay. So I've essentially accepted Prabhupada's mission as my life and soul. And a manifestation of that is I commit, I vow to certain things to do and certain things to not do, generally 60 rounds per day, and refrain from certain activities. And then and let me make a formal vow, a formal commitment to Srila Prabhupada to affirm that I'm accepting him as my spiritual guide to come out of material existence and to develop realization of myself as spirit, soul, and Jivara Subhoy Krishnari Nityadas, Krishnara Tatasta Shakti Beta Beta Prakash, and to develop myself as an eternal servant of Krishna. That let me make a formal commitment because it's true for me. And so so in this way, by following the spirit of Maharaj Parikshit without imitating, but going towards the same details, but without imitating, by following the spirit of Maharaj Parikshit, full absorption. This is 100%. And a beautiful part of the process, Kabarta Apto Bhajatam Sadharmata. Neha Bikramo Nashoste Prachivarna Vijite Swapamampya Sadharma Satrate Matobaya. A beautiful part of this process. Okay, if we give 0.1%, then that's for our eternal benefit. At the same time, we're urged for our own happiness to give 100%, at least to move in that direction. Just this morning in my reading in Bhagavatam, this is from the 4th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22, text 32. This is Sanaka Kumar. This is the Kumaras giving profound philosophical guidance and instruction to Maharaj Prithu. Maharaj Prithu is this this is Sanat Kumar speak. Maharaj Prithu, he's this exemplary king of the Vedic age, like Ramachandra, Parikshit, and Yudhishthira. So it's just a simple verse from Sanat Kumar. He says, there is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. Very simple. And just reading any of Prabhupada's books, just like every sentence is like that, reminding us of what we're supposed to do. Not supposed to in the sense of, no, I can do whatever I want. Yes, and what that if we want our true bliss, just even forgetting about service or mission, just for our own happiness and bliss and fulfillment and peace, that to give ourselves fully to self-realization, fully to God consciousness. And Maharaj Parikshit and Prabhupada in the purport stresses that with devote, that Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly a very dear scripture for all the devotees of the Lord, but it is auspicious even for the non-devotees, also because it explains that even the non-devotees, hovering under the spell of material energy, can be delivered from such clutches if they hear the narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam with devotion and attention from the right source, representing the Lord by disciplic succession. So the right source, so Maharaj Parikshit, he's hearing from the right source, Shukadev Goswami, the most qualified pure devotee of Krishna. So we have our current link to the Parampara Srila Prabhupada. It's simple, actually. He's the right source. Someone says, yes, but there are other sources too. Okay, we don't argue that. We're saying Srila Prabhupada is doubtlessly a right, authentic source, fully devoted as the person Bhagavan, fully devoted to serve Bhagavatam, to serve Krishna in the line of his pure devotee of Krishna, spiritual master Bhakti Siddhanta. And so we get to be part of this process. We get to be part of this mission to whatever extent we choose. And again, the recommendation, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yidgay Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Sume Dasa. Sume means those who are of superior intelligence, particularly in this age of Kali. They engage in the Sankirtan movement. They engage in chanting the names of God, particularly those most intimate names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's what it's described. And so intelligence is not intrinsically described as having any letters next to one's name or being highly successful in business or things like that. But it's giving ourselves fully to this mission and being an inspiring, caring, gentle stand for others to have an opportunity to be part of this mission. That's the satisfaction. That's the satisfaction of the soul. So from the right source representing the Lord by disciplic succession, Srila Prabhupada no doubt is doing that. There's no cause or reason to search elsewhere, but if someone wants to, they may. And this is a doubtless path, and we have the opportunity to be the right source and to represent the disciplic succession. We have an opportunity to do that by following Srila Prabhupada, accepting his guidance. And it's non-different from following Maharaj Parikshit. And as we started the class, Maharaj Parikshit yeah, he's infused, he's surcharged with transcendental potency, which comes from he's doing austerity, and he's doing austerity that is enhancing his devotion. So we like that. He's a touchstone for transformation. And so again, we don't want to imitate the austerities of Parikshit Maharaj. At the same time, we do want to go in that direction. Not because austerity without devotion, we just become hard-hearted. And that's not helpful. In fact, that's harmful. At the same time, if we're not doing sufficient austerity, then I know myself, then I just become dull-minded, complacent, and no potency. Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, Yadasamar hite chayam kormon ganiva sarvasha indriyan indriyarteshu tasya pragya pratishtita. And Krishna says, one who is able to withdraw his senses from the sense objects, like the tortoise, the turtle, that draws his limbs into the shell, is to be known as truly situated in knowledge. It means truly situated. Essentially, knowledge means realization that I'm spirit, soul, not the body. And that realization is solidified when the soul engages in its eternal occupation of bhakti, of devotional service. Okay, let's see. So to progress in this process, it requires, well, it's important that we make distinctions. We talk of spiritual bypass, artificial transcendence, sahajya. The idea is like pretending that I'm at a level where I don't need to make distinctions, but actually haven't even come to the point of being able to make distinctions. Make distinctions mean like that, okay, so in one sense, everything's one. We could say everything's God, everything's Krishna, there's truth there. But we make distinctions in terms of, okay, how do I relate to the eating process? How do I relate in my communication? Right? In communication, we make distinctions. This sort of communication, this can often be a roadblock to self-exploration. Well, communication's all one. Well, no, it's not. If I communicate in one way, it's going to create a different experience and a different result. And if I can communicate in this way, that's going to create what we call sacred space. That's really conducive for authentic exchange, that's satisfying for the soul, supporting each other to distinguish reality from illusion. Make distinctions about Krishna's energy or Lakshmi or money. Make distinctions about how we relate to the different energies. We often give the example of the vodka in the vodka bottle. Sure, it's Krishna's energy, but we make distinctions. Yeah, probably if I want to progress in clear consciousness, okay, let's not relate to the energy in the way of drinking it, because even though it's Krishna in a sense, it's not going to help me in my Krishna consciousness. So sure, in a sense, at a level of Parikshit Maharaj, at a level of Shukadev Goswami, they're truly seeing everything as Krishna. And Antarasta, Pramana-Chantarasta, they're realizing Krishna in every atom. They're realizing Krishna in the heart of all living entities. There's no material vision where it's just like, oh, here's how can I exploit this person, this body for my aggrandizement, for my pleasure, like that. They're seeing Krishna everywhere and having natural realization how to relate to all events, all circumstances, to enhance Krishna consciousness for everyone, to truly serve, to truly water the root of the tree. So that's, Prabhupada emphasizes that point in the purport. One who takes it as belonging to a particular sect is certainly mistaken. So this is truly watering the root of the tree, yata tavur mulani shechanena. Meaning that just like the branches, leaves, twigs indicates all races, genders, species, we learn the science, how to water the root of the tree. And then we're serving all spirits. We're serving the whole universe. And if we're missing the roots, it's like, but I love this particular branch, so I'll pour the water there. Even that branch doesn't benefit. It's like, that's not the process. In that same verse from the fourth canto that describes about the root of the tree, it also gives the example of just like the function of the hand is to serve the stomach. Hand serves the stomach the food, the stomach naturally nourishes all. So the stomach represents Krishna, the root of the tree represents Krishna, right? If the hand thinks, why should I serve the stomach? I will enjoy, ha ha ha. Yeah, so it's an obnoxious affair. So we're being obnoxious when we think, why should I serve Krishna? I'll help this one and that one, and I'll be the enjoyer. We're at best, we're wasting time. We're wasting time, allowing ourselves to continue to be influenced by material conditioning from this lifetime and previous lifetimes. Yeah. So in order to progress in this consciousness towards the consciousness of Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, then it's vital that we make distinctions. And we make distinctions, and we're guided in that by our current link, direct link to the disciplic succession, Srila Prabhupada. And within that context, it's vital that we use our intelligence, how to make distinctions about what time of day to rise, what to do with the morning hours, and how to use my time so that each day, at the end of the day, we have it not just thinking, but we have an experience. Yes, by following this process, I'm experiencing. I've made some progress out of the forest of illusion towards transcendental consciousness, towards self-realization, towards Krishna consciousness. I'm experiencing that. And okay, so I'll read the verse again, text 2. Etad veditum ichami tatvam tatva vidambara harerad bhuta viryasya kataloka sumangala. The king said, I wish to know narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living beings in all planets. Thanks for your presence and attention. Hare Krishna. I welcome any comments or questions at this time. Damayanti.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. I just wanted to share an experience that I had this morning.
Yeah.
I had a dream that was like disturbing, and I had a dream that like I was at my parents' house and one of our pet cats was hit by a car, and the neighbor was attending to it, and then my uncle, I don't know why he was in the dream, but he was coming to get me, looking very concerned. And when I saw the cat situation, I was thinking, it's time. I wasn't upset like, oh, the body or my cat. I was like, it's time. And I was going straight to chant to the cat dying. And I was chanting really loudly, and the cat was just trying to kind of get away from its experience of pain. And even it started to recognize me and purr, and it wasn't dying, but it was very, very graphic dream. And anyway, so I was just chanting really intensely in the dream. And then I woke up because it was a shocking kind of situation. The dream woke me up. And I was like, Krishna, said Krishna real loud. And I don't know, Garuda woke up, and I was like, oh, I had this dream. And he was like, why did it happen? Like, what did you expose yourself to that caused a dream? I was like, no, Krishna wants me to wake up and chant right now. That's how I interpret it. Yeah. I was like, I need to chant, because that was like the conclusion of the dream was like, it's time to chant. So I got up at 3 a.m. and chanted for a long time. Anyway, it felt really good. I haven't had, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I haven't had felt much urgency or attraction to chanting for like a few months. and it's like coming back, and I don't really know why. It's like I'm not even doing anything amazing to like. I'm not even doing anything really that amazing to like have a consciousness to desire. I mean, I'm doing my chanting, but I haven't been attracted. It felt like effort, but anyway, I don't know. I don't know if this relates to what you've been sharing, but I feel this urgency to, like, I want to live like that. And I even, after hours of chanting, I had this like pang of hunger, like it's a hunger sensation. And I felt it as pleasure, not pain. It was like, I want to feel this urgency. I want to feel like pain. I want to be austere. I want austerity. It's really like, actually, it's actually more satisfying. It's just a higher taste that, you know, and I'm still a conditioned soul, so I'm coming into it, not really there yet, but I'm grateful for at least the knowledge of the experience that it really feels better to withhold the things that distract me and numb me, and to intensely engage in the things that really elevate my consciousness. I was like, every round I was chanting for everyone I know. Not every round, every mantra. I was just going around for everybody. It's like, I don't know who's gonna die, but because the dream was about like someone I know dying, you know, I was like, I don't know who's dying. I don't know if there's a cat out on the road now. I don't know what's happening, but we actually are gonna die. I don't know when. And then I'm gonna die. And it was just like kind of an intense morning, but really felt sobering. I just wanted to share an experience. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Damayanti. I heard it was a disturbing, distressing dream, and I'll offer it was a most auspicious dream. And I hear there was fear and like that, but I mean, a dream where you're chanting Hare Krishna out of fear or whatever, that's special. It's transcendentally special. And I hear that you've not let it just stay in the dream, that you're moved, and you're moved to greater intensity in chanting and performing some austerities to increase your hearing and chanting, to pierce the knot in the heart, to pierce the material knot in the heart. You're moved to greater intensity through the fear, whatever was happening there with the cat in the dream. So I find your personal sharing to be completely relevant, both to the nescience part of the nature of material life. The cat's going to die. We're all going to die. Our grandchildren's grandchildren, they will all die. And then that's knowledge to get the nature of matter is dwindling and destruction. And the nature of spirit is devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna. So it was all encapsulated in that dream. Thanks for sharing.
Hi Krishna. I have a question about the purport. Srila Prabhupada says something about non-devotee who are absorbed in Bhagavatam and holy sheets and under the guidance of the disciplic succession. So I like to be that kind of non-devotee.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, like, how do you interpret that? I have my own interpretation of what Srila Prabhupada is saying there, but I like to hear from you, because I feel really attracted to be that person.
Okay. Yeah. It's really the last sentence of the purport, and it's a long sentence, like 6 or 7 lines, and speaks about Srimad Bhagavatam being a very dear scripture for the devotees, also auspicious for the non-devotees, and so that's what you're referring to. So thanks for asking about that. All right, so reading that, my understanding is Prabhupada is referring to the final line of the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Second verse of the Bhagavatam starts, Dharma Projita Kojita Permanim Matsaram Satam. That this Bhagavatam, it's completely kicks out all all sectarianism in the name of religion or spirituality. It kicks out all cheating processes in the name of yoga or religion, processes that, yeah, it's spiritual, but there's so much motivation there for dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It kicks all of that. Srimad Bhagavate Mamuni Kritikim Apirishvara, and it was this Bhagavatam was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva in the maturity of his literary career. Says like that. This was his, fullest realization. And then Sadyarija Varujate Trakrit Vishushabis Takshina. And it says that, and I think that's what Prabhupada is referring to, because his language practically mirrors the way he translates that verse. That by attentive and submissive hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord is revealed in the heart. And so what I hear that Prabhupada saying, he's quoting, that's in a sense, Vyasadeva has 3 invocation verses in the first chapter. And that second verse, Vyasadeva is saying, like for conditioned material souls who've got anarthas and all sorts of material covering. But hear this Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not just for Shukadeva Goswami and Sutta Goswami. For all conditioned souls, all the time, especially Kali Yuga, hear this Bhagavatam. And of course, Paramatma, Krishna, Super Soul, is always in our hearts. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Vedesha Tishtati. Super Soul is always in our hearts, but we're disconnected from it. We're not remembering it. And then hear Bhagavatam. That's what Vyasadeva is saying. Prabhupada's saying, hear Bhagavatam, and we'll experience purification. Vidyate Ridyagrantis, Chidyante Sarvasamshya, Kshiyante Chasya Karmani, Drishdevat Manishri. And the doubts will be pierced, and all misgivings will be slashed to pieces. And then we will awaken to the presence and the guidance of God in the heart. And so that's what I'm seeing here. Prabhupada's referencing Vyasadeva, who's speaking to all conditioned souls, especially in Kali Yuga, as deep in the modes you are. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Supreme Lord will your awareness of the Supreme Lord in your heart will be awakened. What could be a more enticing life goal than that?
Like in this purport, Srila Prabhupada, when he said non-devotee, he equates non-devotee with conditioned soul. So it does address us, at least me. There may be pure devotees here in this audience, but like that, conditioned soul, and that's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and it could be a conditioned soul who's going for the non-personal liberation. Bhagavatam also addresses that. Akama sarvakamava mokshakamudavridhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita pusham param. That, okay, you want to go to erase all desire. You want devotional desire. You have material desire. Whatever. Connect with this process of devotional service with intensity. And that's the wisest course of action. Thank you, Mohan. Any other questions, comments, sharing at this time?
I have, I don't know, a reflection, I think, that I'd like to share. I've never really looked at Krishna consciousness as a possibility that actually we can make progress every day. And this kind of excites me. And I feel like from this class today, like a new habit that I could weave into my life would be to journal at the end of the day and to ask the question, how have I progressed in Krishna consciousness today? And just to know that in every choice that I make, that I can ask myself, is this supporting me in my Krishna consciousness or not? And I feel quite excited by that. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing. I'm inspired by that. Yeah, I'm inspired by that. And it's yeah, you're creating a structure for yourself to assess to assess your growth in consciousness, your transformation, your deepening, strengthening in Krishna consciousness. And then in that journaling, I imagine it will be like, yes, making that choice. I know myself, like if I make a choice to rise early and read Bhagavatam, read something from Prabhupada before even morning program, then I experience myself gaining in transcendence. And if I make choices to sleep unnecessarily, overeat, then it's a science. Then the effects are there. So I to me that journaling structure shows dedication to this process of progress in Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Charlene.
Yeah, thank you. I think I always had, I don't know, a thought that maybe it would come and there'd be like this massive epiphany one day, or something like massive would happen, and then I'd get it. And then it's like, no, I could kind of get it every day if I want to. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. I appreciate your sharing.
And related to that, I remember reading or hearing from Srila Prabhupada, and maybe Dhira Govinda, you can help me with that it is an integral part of Krishna consciousness to acknowledge our progress. Because if we, without doing that, then we are not grounded in the reality of where we are at, including the progress we are making. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly what reference you're referring to, but it's related specifically to what Charlene's intending. Prabhupada said he wants all his disciples to write, and not to just write for the sake of it. All the disciples to write their realizations and write their process. Writing can take different forms, books, magazine articles, and one form is journaling and diary. And Prabhupada, he wants that from all his disciples. We don't mention that much. Prabhupada made that clear. Thank you, Malini. Len.
Hi, thank you, David. I just have a question that popped into my head, and I'm not sure if it's off topic, but I don't think it's off topic, because so many times we're talking about, Prabhupada's mission, and we're out there to bring Krishna consciousness to everyone that's amenable to it. I'm just wondering because for me, proselytizing, if somebody is interested, yes, I will talk to them about Krishna consciousness, but to go knocking on somebody's door and saying, okay, I have these books, and would you like to learn about reincarnation, et cetera, et cetera. What is the rationale for spreading Prabhupada's mission to others, to other conditioned souls, non-devotees? What is the benefit for us in our spiritual growth to do that? Okay.
Okay. Thanks for your sharing and question, Len. Thanks. Yeah, so, pretty clearly terms like proselytizing or preaching, these invoke a negative reactivity. That's why I pretty much never use them. Prabhupada uses them perfectly, and I don't want to imitate Prabhupada. That's why, but if we just look very naturally, like, wow, I have some, this is blissful, this is wonderful on all levels. I want to share it. A few days ago, we shared this, like, you can imagine a child with this is a great lollipop. Do you want some lollipops? Here's a fun toy. I want to share my toys with you. It's just like, we have something wonderful, we want to share it. It's not like, then the child's like, yeah, I want to share my toy. Are you trying to impose your toy? No, I just want to share. You can accept or not accept. Or let's say, let's say that's why, like, we want to notice our reactivity and then see, like, it doesn't need to apply there just because there are bad examples in the name of preaching, etc., etc. Or let's say, okay, someone's really excited about math, okay, and he or she becomes a math teacher, and like, yeah, I'm really excited about math, and then they're teaching 3 + 3 is 6 to the first graders, or maybe they're teaching integral calculus to the college students. It's like, yeah, I just love math, and I love to learn math and teach it, and I've dedicated my life to sharing math, and like that. And well, are you trying to impose what you think is true on the 7th graders, like algebra? You're being oppressive. I just want to share math. I just want to, so we share according to our inspiration with intelligence, right? And within, yeah, according, so that we fill ourselves up, to use a medicine game analogy, we fill ourselves up with medicine. We fill ourselves up with medicine, and then actually we're enthused to share it. Not out of insecurity. I need you to be like me so I can feel secure in myself. No, like, this is what I like to study Bhagavatam. And then, yeah, this is like, okay, so like, I'm really inspired to study Prabhupada's books. And then I get, okay, like today was my service. I decided it was my service to lead the class. Okay. All right. And now in speaking, I deepen my realization about the philosophy. I deepen my realization about the process of bhakti yoga just by speaking. And now in this conversation in the past 20 minutes, I'm deepening my realization. So to step up to share, I know to step up to share, then and to share with people and to respond to their questions, then well, there's a quote I've heard attributed to Einstein: you haven't really learned something till you can teach it. And when I'm putting myself in a role to share, teach, if teach is a reactive word, then share. I mean, like that, and then I get illumination about where I'm missing realization, and that's helpful for me. And so, it's a common saying, like, about love: the more you give, the more you get. So I know that the more I'm endeavoring with some sincerity to share bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada's teachings, then the more I'm full in them. And if I'm stagnant in that and I'm not doing the austerity to share, I'll just practice on my own. I become dry. So it's, there is what's called the Bhajananandi, where they're devotees of Krishna, and their service essentially is to, like, live in a cave and like that. And we have some Bhajananandis in our line. But in the line of Prabhupada was completely filled with the bliss of Krishna consciousness at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. And he didn't need to go anywhere. He's not like me. He's not becoming stagnant in the Radha Damodar. Like, if I'm in my office, I become stagnant if I'm not sharing, writing, or giving class, or attending class. He's not becoming. He had no need to get on the Jaladuta at the age of 70, penniless. He had no need, but he wanted to share. He was inspired to share, to serve the mission of a spiritual master, and out of true caring and compassion. So that's our line. And it's not just, so we should do it to follow Prabhupada. Yeah. And again, for speaking for myself, and I know it's true for so many of us, and the more that I'm stretching myself to get out there and share, whether in the form of a group coaching, of a Safatov 3, an adventure in conscious living, advanced seminar, foundational seminar, coach training. For me, it's all about sharing the eternal process of bhakti yoga according to time and circumstance in some creative, maybe unconventional forms. I get myself out there, then I come alive. Now, we want to be integrated and balanced and synergistic, because there can be in the name of I'm just out there sharing, preaching to others, but I'm not cultivating it myself. Like I'm so engaged in sharing with others, I don't have time to chant my rounds. And I'm not trying to be facetious. There are many who've done that. There are many who've done that. I'm so much into book distribution that I don't have time for morning program or chant my rounds. That doesn't work. That leads to a crash pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Len. Thanks very much.
In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there is the word bodhayantas, and it's in a word for word, it's translated as preaching. And in the translation of the verse, Srila Prabhupada said, enlightening one another.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. It's, like in a word for word, you really use preaching, and the definition of preaching is enlightening one another. It's 10.9, Bhagavad Gita 10.9. You can look at it then. And I know personally, I often feel like, why me? Why do I get to have such a beautiful life? Because of Krishna consciousness. Not that my life doesn't have all the klesha and the miseries and all that, but because of Krishna consciousness, it seems always a beautiful life. And I feel pain for the people who don't have that. So I do want to reach out to people, because people don't even know that there is an alternative to materialism. They don't even know that there is an alternative to getting, bang and bang again by material energy, helplessly and hopelessly. And I found that being motivating.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that reference to one of the seed verses of Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Thanks for that detail, Malini. Bodhayanta, preaching, enlightening one another. Beautiful. And then thanks for sharing that. I'm hearing you, like, a lot of your inspiration to share Krishna consciousness. It comes from gratitude. It comes from gratitude for the gift you receive from Srila Prabhupada, and you want to share it with others who you feel pain. You feel pain that, like, they're not even aware that this is possible. Thank you, Malini. Dr. George.
Hare Krishna, David. I just wanted something relating to Charlene. I really appreciate the acknowledging, what steps I take every day in Krishna consciousness. Because I usually tend to look at the negative of it, like, what haven't I done? And I just wanted to add something to that's been with me the last couple of days, something that Lakshmi Priya in her reading shared with me, is the notion that there's no diminution, there's no, in this process, there's, it's only additive. So when I, look at the end of the day, I'll be getting some degree in some dental field that, in the next 6 months. And all that I know from that field, the moment I die, is just gone. It's diminutive, right? So when I have to make the choice of, do I read one more, whatever, meta-analysis article, or do I read one more verse, it's almost a no-brainer at the end of the day. So I just wanted to add that, in addition to me having more of a consciousness because of Arlene's sharing of, how can I look at this in the what activity did I do today in Krishna consciousness? Also remembering in the same light that any activity that I do is only additive. It never goes away. No matter if I die in 5 seconds or in 5 years, yes, I just wanted to share it's not diminutive.
Thanks for sharing. I'm inspired by your sharing, George. Thank you. Oh, since you mentioned meta-analysis in dental journals, some of you heard me share, it was two years ago, Thanksgiving. Yeah, 2018, I was at my sister's place in the outskirts of Philadelphia. And so there was a big family dinner. My parents passed away a decade ago or so, but there was other relatives. And there was one relative, Norman, who was like my cousin through marriage. Never talked to him much, but I've sort of known him for 30 years. And yeah, I was at the table, and there was all this idle banter going on. I'm not even going to mention what was on the table. And anyhow, so but then I was sitting across from Norman, and he was talking to his mother and father-in-law, and this and that. And one thing is, yeah, he has trouble sleeping. He has trouble sleeping. And Norman's a dentist. I know that he's a dentist. He's probably about my age, about 60 years old, and he's a dentist, and I'm sure very good at what he does. But he just made a, because he has trouble sleeping. Somebody can just see like 2 hours per night. He just can't sleep, and that's gone on for decades. It's gone on for many years. And then he made the direct comment. He goes, yeah, like I'll be up at 3, 4 in the morning, and so I don't have anything to do, so I'll just read dental journals. So that was too painful for me. It was too painful, and I couldn't. I said, well, I have some ideas of some things you could do at 3 or 4 in the morning, Norman. And he goes, really? What do you think you could help? Because he knows I'm into psychology. I teach some seminars. And others at the table turn too. Oh, David, you can help Norman? Yeah, I think I can. And so I said, okay, Norman. So after the Thanksgiving dinner, if you want, we can go to my room in my sister's house, and I'll show you some things you could do at 4 in the morning. And I think you'll find it even more joyful than dental journals. I could be wrong. And he goes, sure, I'll try it. And my sister and my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he passed away recently. They were encouraging me because they could see that I really had something that could help them. And in fact, my brother-in-law said, oh, well, instead of going to your room, go down to the basement. It's a much bigger space. So after dinner, we went to the basement, and Abby, most or all of you know my son Abby, he was there. And so he came to the basement with us, and we just sort of like cornered Norman. And I just happened to have japa beads with me somehow or other. And like that, and we had kartals, and Norman had this amazing transcendental experience. He really chanting Hare Krishna. In fact, we were there for another 3 days. For each of those 3 days, he actually communicated with my sister, like your brother and your nephew. I wanted whatever they did, and she said, well, yeah, they start at 5 a.m. So he came, like a half-hour drive, and he was there every morning at 5 a.m. The second morning, we were chanting 16 rounds together after 1 round in unison, plus kirtan, because I would read some Gita and we would have some discussion. It was one of the mornings, after the 16 rounds, he was really worried of, like, he was in the, he didn't know enough about chanting to commit offenses. So he was just like in this, he was really exhibiting symptoms, and he didn't know what was happening, and he was laughing and crying. He was crying, and I said, yeah. So anyhow, I rescued my cousin Norman from dental journals at 4 a.m. Hare Krishna. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.